Here is firewood and food for 2 weeks. I am going to the Maldives with my wife. And I am taking all of your savings. Those were the exact words my son Ethan said to me as he closed the door of this snow-covered cabin. 150 m from the city. 150 miles of absolute nothing. Just trees. Silence. And a cold that cuts right through to your bones. He took my phone from the table. He slipped it into his pocket as if it were his. As if I had no right to call for help. As if my life no longer mattered. Oh. I changed the locks on the apartment. He shouted that from the car window with a smile that chilled me more than all the snow in the world. Jessica, his wife, was at the wheel. Laughing. Laughing at me. At the stupid old woman who worked her entire life. Who raised her son alone after his father died. Who saved every penny to have something decent in her old age. And now they were going to the Maldives with my money. With the $75. 000 my late husband and I scraped together over 40 years of sacrifice. I watched them drive away down the snow-covered dirt road. The car disappeared between the trees. And the silence swallowed me whole. I am 68 years old. I am alone. I have no phone. I have no way to get out of here. The nearest town is a day's walk away. And in this cold, I would never make it alive. Ethan knew that. He planned everything perfectly. Oh. So he thought. Because what my son did not know, what Jessica could not imagine, as she laughed on her way to the airport, is that I had also planned something that was waiting for them right there at that very airport. And when they discovered it, when they understood what I had done, it would be far too late for them. I stood in front of the window watching the tire tracks fade under the fresh snow. And I smiled. Yes. I smiled because for the first time in 3 weeks since I discovered their miserable plan, I felt like I could breathe. The trap was set. All that was left was for them to fall into it. But let me tell you how I got here. How a mother who loved her son madly ended up abandoned in a frozen cabin, waiting for the perfect moment of her revenge. Because this did not begin today. It began exactly 21 days ago when I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Ethan had come to visit me. Which was rare, because ever since he married Jessica 3 years ago, he barely showed up at my apartment. I was happy to see him. I made his favorite meal. That pot roast he loved as a kid. He ate in silence. Distracted. Glancing at his phone every 2 minutes. Jessica did not come with him. She never did. That woman hated me from the day I met her. Even though I always tried to be kind. To accept her. To love her like a daughter. After dinner, Ethan excused himself and went out onto the balcony to make a call. He said it was work. I stayed in the kitchen washing dishes. But the window was open. I did not mean to listen. It was fate. Or maybe God. Putting me in the right place to discover the snake I had raised. The old woman does not suspect a thing. I heard Ethan's voice clear as water. That voice that used to sing me lullabies when he was little. That voice that told me, I love you, Mom, every night before bed. I already spoke to the owner of the cabin. We drop her off there with supplies and head straight to the airport. I am changing the locks tomorrow. By the time anyone finds her, if they ever find her, we will be in the Maldives, spending her money. My hand stopped under the water. The plate slipped and crashed into the sink. But Ethan did not hear it. He kept talking. Jessica. Baby. In 2 days, we will be rich. 75 美元. Ling ling ling. Enough to start over in another country if we want. The old woman has no one else. No siblings. No close friends. No one is going to ask about her until it is too late. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. I had to grip the edge of the sink to keep from falling. My son, my only son, the boy for whom I sacrificed everything. My dreams. My youth. My entire life. He was planning to abandon me to freeze to death in an isolated cabin. And the worst part, the part that shattered my soul, was hearing him laugh, laughing while he talked about my death as if it were a technicality. A minor detail in his perfect plan. I dried my hands slowly. I took a deep breath. And in that moment, something inside me changed. I was no longer Margaret, the loving, self-sacrificing mother. I was someone else. Someone who had been pushed too far. Someone who had nothing left to lose. Ethan walked into the kitchen smiling. "Sorry, Mom." That was important. His voice was so sweet. So fake. I smiled back at him. "Do not worry, my love." And I hugged him. I hugged him tight while he remained clueless, that I had heard every word, that I knew every detail of his betrayal, that from that moment on the game had changed. That night after Ethan left, I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not break anything. I sat in my favorite armchair, the same one where my husband died 5 years ago. And I thought with absolute clarity, if my son wanted to play dirty, I was going to teach him who invented the game, because he forgot something important. I did not make it to 68 by being a fool. I survived poverty, widowhood, years of working double shifts to give everything to that ungrateful son. And if I have learned anything in this life, it is that when you are pushed to the edge of a cliff, you either fall or you learn to fly. I picked up my phone and called the only person I could trust, Catherine, my friend of 30 years. The woman who was with me when I buried my husband. The smartest lawyer I know. "Catherine, I need your help." My voice sounded calm. Cold. Different. "I need this to stay between us. It is about Ethan. And I need to act fast." She did not ask any questions. She just said, "Come to my office tomorrow." And she hung up. That is how real friends are. They do not need explanations. They just need to know you need them. That was the night the mother died, and the strategist was born. The night I stopped being a victim and became a player, because Ethan made a fatal mistake. He underestimated me. He thought that because I was old, I was weak. He thought that because I was his mother, I would forgive anything. But there are betrayals that cannot be forgiven. And there are mothers who, when they awaken with fangs. Now I am here in this frozen cabin, surrounded by snow and silence. Ethan thinks he is one. He thinks he is on his way to his tropical paradise, with my money in his pocket and a clear conscience. But what he does not know, what he is about to discover at that airport, is going to shatter him more than any cold. Because revenge, when served ice cold, when cooked with patience and precision, is the bitterest dish of all. And I, Margaret, have been cooking it for 3 weeks. The day after I overheard that cursed conversation, I got up at 50 the morning. I had not slept at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's laughing face, heard his words like knives stabbing into my chest. "The old woman does not suspect a thing." Those words spun in my head like a broken record. But I was not going to let myself be destroyed. Not after everything I had survived. I showered, got dressed in my gray suit, the one I wore for important occasions, and left my apartment at 7:00 sharp. Catherine's office was on the other side of town. But I needed to walk. I needed to feel the cold morning air to keep my mind clear, because what I was about to do required precision. One single mistake, and Ethan would win. One single false move, and I would end up frozen in that cabin with no one ever knowing the truth. I arrived at 8:30. Catherine was already waiting for me with 2 steaming cups of coffee. She is 56 years old, with short hair, and a few gray streaks she never bothered to dye, and a gaze that can read people like open books. When she saw me walk in, she knew immediately that something terrible had happened. "Tell me everything, Margaret, and do not hold anything back." Her voice was firm but warm. I sat across from her and told her every detail. The call on the balcony, Ethan's exact words, the plan to abandon me in the cabin, the $75, ling ling ling, the Maldives, everything. As I spoke, I felt the words burn my throat. But I did not cry. I had no tears left for that son. Catherine listened in silence. When I finished, she stared at me for a long minute. Then she spoke with the kind of calm that only lawyers who have seen the worst of humanity possess. "We have 3 weeks. You said. That is enough time. But we need to move fast. First, the money. You need to protect it right now." She pulled out a folder and started writing. "We are going to open a new account at a different bank. In your name only. Today we transfer 80% of your savings. We will leave some in the old account, so Ethan does not get suspicious. But the bulk of it will be safe. Second, we need evidence of his intentions. That is trickier. But I know someone who can help us." "Who?" I asked. Though at that moment, I would have accepted help from the devil himself to stop Ethan. "Vincent. He is a private investigator. He has worked with me on several family fraud cases. He is discreet, fast, and does not ask unnecessary questions. I am going to ask him to follow Ethan and Jessica. If they are planning anything else, he will find out. And if there is anything they can use against you or in your favor, we will know before they do." A shiver ran down my spine. This was real. I was about to spy on my own son to build a case against him, as if he were a common criminal. But then I remembered his words. By the time anyone finds her, if they ever find her. And the guilt evaporated. He stopped being my son the moment he decided to leave me to die. "Do what you have to do. Catherine. I will do my part. I am going to act like I know nothing. I am going to be the loving mother. The foolish old woman he thinks I am. And when the time comes, I will be ready." Catherine nodded and picked up her phone. In less than an hour, I was sitting in a different bank, opening a new account. The representative, a young woman with glasses and a professional smile, explained all the details. We transferred $60. Ling ling ling. I left Fempton. 0 inches my old account. Enough that Ethan would not notice anything strange if he checked, but not so much that he could steal my entire future. When I walked out of the bank, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in 24 hours. The money was safe. At least there was that. But the hardest part remained. Pretending. Acting as if my heart was not broken into 1,000 pieces. As if I did not know that my only son wanted me dead. That same afternoon, Ethan called me. "Mom, Jessica and I were thinking about taking you to a friend's cabin for a few days. You know, so you can rest. Get some fresh air. It would do you good to get out of the city." His voice sounded so convincing, so concerned. I could almost believe he actually cared. "Oh, my love. What a lovely thought," I replied in the sweetest tone I could manage. "But I do not want to be a bother. I know you two are busy. It is no bother. Mom, we insist. It is all arranged. We leave in 2.5 weeks. Pack warm clothes. It is going to be cold. But you will love the place. It is very peaceful." Peaceful. What a beautiful word for isolated. Remote. Perfect for abandoning someone. "Thank you. Som. You are so good to me." The words scraped my throat like ground glass. But I said them because that was my part of the plan. To make him believe he had already won. The following days were a silent torture. Ethan came to visit more often. Always smiling. Always attentive. He brought me flowers. Helped me with my groceries. Asked me how I was feeling. It was all a show. And I played my part so well. I cooked for him. Asked about his work. I told him how much I loved him. 2 actors in a macabre play. Each believing they were fooling the other. But while I acted during the day, at night I met with Catherine and Vincent. The investigator was a thin man in his 50s, with eyes that missed no detail. In our first meeting, he showed me photos. Ethan going in and out of pawn shops. Jessica meeting a man in coffee shops. Documents of debts I knew nothing about. Your son owes money. Mrs. Peterson. A lot of money. Vincent said, laying the papers on the table. About $30. 000, between loans and credit cards. And your daughter-in-law? Well, she has her own agenda. The man she is meeting is named Ryan. He works as a waiter at a high-end restaurant. But from the looks of it, she is passing him money. A lot of money. My stomach churned. Did my daughter-in-law have a lover? Did Ethan know? Or was she playing him just as expertly? There is more. Vincent continued. I have been tracking their movements for 5 days. They bought plane tickets to the Maldives. Just 2 tickets in the names of Ethan and Jessica. They leave on the exact same day they plan to leave you at the cabin. But here is where it gets interesting. Ryan also bought a ticket to the same destination for the day after. Catherine and I looked at each other. The full picture was starting to form. And it was worse than I had imagined. Jessica was not just planning to steal my money with Ethan, she was planning to abandon him. 2. To take everything and run off with her lover. My son was an idiot. A cruel idiot. But an idiot nonetheless. We need more evidence. Catherine said. Something we can use legally. Vincent. Can you record a conversation between them? Something that proves the plan. Already did. Vincent pulled a small recorder from his briefcase. Last night in their apartment, they talked about everything. How they are going to leave you. Changing the locks. Transferring the money. They even mentioned that if you do not survive the cold, it would be easier because there would be no police report. It is all here. My hands trembled as I reached for the recorder. Catherine stopped my hand before I could press play. Do not listen to it. Margaret. Not now. You have to keep a clear head. We have what we need. Now comes the final part. The strike. What are we going to do? I asked. Though a part of me already knew the answer. We are going to let them take you to the cabin. You are going to act as if you know nothing. And when they get to the airport thinking they have won, the police will be waiting for them. With this recording. With the fraudulent documents. With everything. We are going to destroy them legally before they even step on the plane. But I will be alone in that cabin. I said, what if something goes wrong? You will not be alone. Vincent is going to follow them from a distance. The moment they leave you there, he will come for you. He will get you out of there within a few hours. We just need Ethan and Jessica to believe they have won long enough for them to get to the airport. It was risky. It was painful. But it was perfect. I nodded slowly. Let us do it. The next few days were the strangest of my life. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew every detail of Ethan's plan. And still, I had to wake up every morning and act as if my world were normal. As if my son was not counting the days until he abandoned me in the middle of nowhere. As if every hug he gave me was not a lie wrapped in betrayal, but I was counting too. Counting the days until the trap would spring. And in the meantime, I prepared each piece of my revenge with the precision of a watchmaker. Because if there is one thing I have learned in 68 years of life, it is that patience is the most powerful weapon there is. The impulsive make mistakes. The patient win wars. A week before the trip, Ethan showed up at my apartment with some papers. Mom, I need you to sign this. It is just a temporary power of attorney, so I can manage your accounts while you are resting at the cabin. You know, pay your bills. That kind of thing. His smile was so natural. So rehearsed. I could almost believe he actually cared. I took the papers and read them slowly. Of course. They were a trap. With my signature. Ethan would have full access to my money. He could empty the entire account. And I would be powerless to stop him. I looked my son in the eyes. Those eyes that used to shine when he saw me come home from work as a boy. And I felt a mix of disgust and sadness so profound it almost broke me. Of course. Son, I trust you. I signed with a trembling hand. But not from fear. It was from contained rage. He did not know that those papers were worthless, because the real money was no longer in that account. I let him take the documents. Believing he had made his master stroke, I let him smile victoriously, as he said goodbye with a kiss on my forehead that burned my skin like acid. When he left, I called Catherine. I signed. He has access to the account with $15. Ling ling ling. Let him take it whenever he wants. That will be additional evidence of theft. She confirmed that everything was ready. Vincent had installed tiny cameras in strategic places. One on the dashboard of Ethan's car, another in their living room. We wanted to document everything. Every word. Every move. And Vincent delivered. 2 days before the trip. He showed me a video that chilled my blood more than any winter wind. It was Ethan and Jessica in their apartment toasting with wine. The quality was perfect. The audio crystal clear. To the foolish old woman who is going to make us rich. Jessica said, raising her glass. Ethan laughed. He clinked his glass with hers, and then kissed her. I already checked the account. Wu. 000. Clean. As soon as we sign the transfer. We are gone. And she stays in her frozen cabin thinking we are good people. His voice was as casual as someone talking about the weather. But then Jessica said something that not even Ethan expected. Did you buy my separate ticket to meet up with Ryan? Because I do not plan on staying with you any longer than necessary. As soon as we get to the Maldives and secure the money, you go your way and I will go mine. We had a deal. The look on Ethan's face in that video was almost comical. He froze with the glass in his hand. What are you talking about? His voice sounded broken. Confused. Oh. Please do not play dumb. Jessica laughed. Did you really think I wanted to spend my life with an indebted loser like you? You are a means to an end. Ethan. You always were. Ryan and I are going to enjoy that money while you finish paying off your pathetic debts. Ethan shot up from his seat. He was trembling. But this was your idea. You convinced me to leave my mother in that cabin. You planned everything. And you agreed to it without a second thought. Jessica replied coldly. So do not come to me now, playing the victim. We are both trash. Darling? The difference is, I accept it. I paused the video. I could not watch anymore. Vincent was beside me. Silo. Mrs. Peterson. There is something else you need to know. His voice was careful. Like someone about to deliver bad news. Your granddaughter. Sophie. The girl is staying with a neighbor during this time. Ethan told her you were sick and needed to rest far away. The girl knows nothing about the real plan. Sophie. My little 2-year-old, Sophie. The only pure light left in this rotten family. She was innocent in all of this. And the thought of her suffering the consequences of her father's actions destroyed me in a way that not even Ethan's betrayal had managed. She cannot know anything about this until it is over. I told Vincent, promise me, the girl will be protected. I do not want her to see her father being arrested. I do not want her to carry that trauma. Vincent nodded. I have already spoken with the neighbor. She is a good woman. She will take care of Sophie until this is resolved. And Catherine is preparing documents for you to get temporary custody if needed. The last 2 days before the trip were a hell disguised as normally. Ethan would come by every morning to make sure I was packing the right things. Warm clothes. Mom, it is going to be very cold. His words sounded like concern. But I heard the threat behind them. Yes. So, I have packed everything. I even packed my favorite sweater. On the one you knit for me when you were 15. Do you remember? He looked at the sweater. And for a second, just 1 second, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt. Regret. But it vanished as quickly as it came. Of course. I remember. Mom, I am glad you still wear it. Lise. It was all lies, wrapped in fake nostalgia. The night before the trip, I did not sleep. I sat on my bed staring at the suitcases. A small one with clothes for the cabin. Another one hidden in Catherine's closet with my real-life documents. Money. Photographs. Everything that truly mattered. Because I knew that after tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same. I would win the battle, but I would lose my son forever. At 6:00 the morning, Ethan knocked on my door. He was already dressed with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Ready for your adventure? Mom, Jessica is waiting in the car. I grabbed my small suitcase, the one they could see, and walked out of my apartment. Maybe for the last time. Maybe forever. The drive was silent. Jessica drove, staring at the road with that bored expression she always had when she was near me. Ethan was in the passenger seat, checking his phone, probably calculating how much money they would spend in their tropical paradise. I was in the back, watching out the window as the city grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared. After 3 hours, the landscape changed completely. There were no more buildings or people, only trees, mountains, and snow. So much snow. The highway turned into a dirt road, and then barely a trail between the trees. Finally, after 4.5 hours of driving, we arrived at the cabin. It was worse than I had imagined. An old wooden structure isolated in the middle of a clearing surrounded by dense forest. There were no other houses in sight. No signs of civilization. Just the white silence of the gently falling snow. Ethan got my suitcase out and carried it inside. The cabin had a single room with a small bed, a wood-burning stove, a table, and 2 chairs. In the corner was a pile of firewood. On the table, a box of canned food, preserves, soups, beans. Here is firewood and food for 2 weeks, Ethan said, gesturing to everything, like a tour guide. The water is in that tank. You have to ration everything, because no one is coming until I get back for you. When are you coming back? I asked, my voice trembling. I played my best role of a frightened old woman. In 2 weeks. Mom, I promise. It is going to be a good rest for you. You will see. He hugged me. It was an empty, mechanical hug. But I held on because I knew it was the last time I would hug my son before I destroyed his life. Jessica did not even get out of the car. She stayed there with the engine running. Ethan took my phone from the table where I had strategically left it. I am taking this because there is no signal out here anyway. I do not want you to get frustrated trying to call. Ethan headed for the door. I followed him. And then, just before getting into the car, he turned around with that icy smile. Oh. I changed the locks on the apartment, he shouted from the car window as Jessica sped off. In case you were wondering, I watched them drive away. The car's tires left deep tracks in the snow, and when they disappeared among the trees, when the sound of the engine faded completely, I just stood there alone, with the wind cutting my face and the cold seeping into my bones. And I smiled. I smiled because I knew that at that very moment, Vincent was following them from a distance, because I knew that in exactly 6 hours, when they arrived at the airport, the police would be waiting for them, because I knew that my son had just made the biggest mistake of his miserable life. I went into the cabin and closed the door. I reached under the mattress and pulled out the satellite phone that Vincent had hidden there 2 days before. I dialed Catherine's number. I am inside. They are gone. Activate the plan. Consider it done. She replied. In 6 hours. This will be over. Hang in there. Margaret? It is almost finished. I hung up and sat on the bed. I looked around that cold, miserable cabin where my son had intended to leave me to die. And I waited. Because revenge is not rushed. Revenge is savored slowly, like the finest of wines. And mine was about to be served. The hours in that cabin passed like centuries. I lit the wood-burning stove because the cold was real. Biting. The kind of cold that reminds you that death can come quietly if you let your guard down. I sat near the fire with the satellite phone in my hands, looking at the clock every 5 minutes. Ethan and Jessica had been on the road to the airport for 3 hours now. 3 hours believing they had won. 3 hours. Imagining tropical beaches, and my money slipping through their dirty fingers. But I knew the truth. I knew Vincent was following them 2 cars behind. I knew Catherine was at the police station with the district attorney, showing them the recordings, the fraudulent bank documents, the complete evidence of conspiracy for theft and endangerment of a vulnerable adult. I knew that every minute that passed was 1 minute less until the trap closed on them. The satellite phone rang. It was Catherine. Margaret. They are 30 minutes from the airport. The police are in position. 2 officers at the main entrance. 2 more at the check-in area. We have a warrant to arrest them the moment they try to check in. How are you? Freezing but alive. And Sophie, with a neighbor. They told her you went to the doctor. She does not suspect a thing. When this is over, we will talk to her. But for now, she is safe and calm. Thank you, Catherine, for everything. My voice broke a little. I do not know what I would have done without you. It is what friends do. Margaret. We protect each other. Now rest. I will call you as soon as they are arrested. And Vincent is on his way. He will be there in 2 hours to get you out of that horrible place. I hung up and stared at the fire. 2 hours. Just 2 more hours in this frozen hell. And I would be free. But a part of me, a small, stupid part that still remembered the boy Ethan once was, felt pain. Because a mother never stops being a mother. Even when her son becomes a monster. Even when that son deserves every ounce of punishment he is about to receive. I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me. Ethan, at 5 years old, running to me with a drawing he had made in school. Look, Mommy, it is you and me in a castle. Ethan at 10, crying in my arms because some kids made fun of him. Do not listen to them. My love, you are perfect, just the way you are. Ethan at 16, hugging me tight the day we buried his father. I am not going to leave you alone. Mom, I promise. All those broken promises, all that love turned to ashes. Where did it all go wrong? Was it my fault for giving him too much? For protecting him so much that he never learned the value of sacrifice? Or are some human beings just born with a void that no amount of love can fill? The phone rang again. This time it was Vincent. Mrs. Peterson. I am 20 minutes from the cabin. Is everything okay in there? I am fine. Just cold. Have they reached the airport yet? They just entered the parking garage. I am watching them from my car. Ethan looks relaxed. Even happy. Jessica is touching up her makeup. They have no idea what is waiting for them. The police are ready. In 10 minutes. When they walk into the terminal, it will all be over. 10 minutes. My heart started to beat faster. Not from fear, but from anticipation. From that dark pleasure that comes when you know justice is about to fall upon those who have wronged you. Stay on the line. Vincent. I want to hear what happens. Understood. I will leave the phone on. Hold on. I heard muffled sounds. Footsteps. The sound of the wind. Vincent was walking towards the airport terminal, following them from a distance. Then I heard Ethan's voice. Clear as water. Come on, baby. The flight leaves in 2 hours. We have plenty of time. I cannot wait to be on the beach. Jessica replied with that sharp voice that always irritated me. Away from this boring country and your burdensome mother. Soon? My love. Soon? Ethan sounded euphoric. And with $75. Ling ling ling. We can stay for 6 months if we want. Maybe we will never come back. There was a silence. Then I heard faster footsteps. And then, the authoritative voice of a police officer, Ethan Peterson. Jessica Vargas. Yes. Ethan's voice changed instantly. It sounded confused. Alarme. What is going on? You need to come with us. There are charges against you for bank fraud. aggravated robbery, and endangerment of a vulnerable adult. You have the right to remain silent. What? This is a mistake. Ethan was shouting now. We have not done anything. Let me go. Jessica also started screaming. This is harassment. You cannot just arrest us like this. Call my lawyer. Ma'am. Calm down, or we will have to handcuff you for disturbing the peace. The officer's voice was firm. Trained. We have video evidence, audio recordings, and fraudulent bank documents. You are both coming with us. There was a struggle, shouts, the sound of handcuffs closing, and then something I did not expect. Ethan yelled with true desperation. It was her idea. Jessica made me do it. I did not want to do this. I made you. Jessica's voice was pure venom. You were the one who signed the papers. You were the one who changed the locks. Do not blame me. You coward. You are both culpable. The officer intervened. And you can explain it to the judge. Let us go. The sounds grew more distant. Vincent came back on the phone. They are putting them in the patrol car now. People at the airport are staring. This is going to be on the news. Mrs. Peterson. Your son has just been publicly humiliated. Good. I said with a calm. I did not recognize myself. Let the whole world know what kind of person he is. I am on my way now. I will be there in less than 2 hours. Get ready to leave. It is very cold, and it is going to get dark soon. I hung up and sat in that frozen cabin, processing what I had just heard. It was done. Ethan and Jessica were arrested. My money was safe. Justice had been served. So why did I feel this emptiness in my chest? Why were tears starting to roll down my cheeks without permission? Because it is one thing to plan revenge, and another thing entirely to see it through. Because hearing your son being arrested, hearing his broken and desperate voice, shatters something inside you that you did not know you were still protecting. Even when that son tried to kill you, even when he deserves it, I cried there alone in the cabin that was meant to be my tomb. I cried for the boy Ethan once was, for the mother I tried to be, for the family we would never be again. I cried until I had no more tears left, until the fire began to die down and the cold began to bite again. Then the phone rang once more. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello, Grandma. The voice was small, scared, unmistakable. It was Sophie. Grandma. A police lady came to get me. She says Dad is in trouble. She says he did something bad. Is it true? Where are you? I felt the world stop. My granddaughter, my little Sophie, who was not supposed to know anything until it was all resolved. But someone had talked. Someone had told her. And now her voice was trembling on the other end of the line, waiting for me to explain why her world had just collapsed. Sophie. My love. I'm okay. I am coming back soon. Your dad made a very big mistake. But you did nothing wrong. None of this is your fault. Do you understand me? What is going to happen to Dad? She was crying. Grandma. I am scared. I do not want Dad to go to jail. He is a good person. He loves me. And there it was. Shattered innocence. The child who still believed in her father, confronted with the horrible truth of who he really was. And I was responsible for that. I had set in motion this machine of justice that was now grinding up everyone in its path, including this innocent child who deserved to carry none of this. My love. Your dad does love you. But sometimes people we love do very bad things. And they have to pay for those things. When I get back, we will talk properly. I will explain everything. But right now, I need you to be strong. Can you do that for me? She sobbed. I do not want to be strong. I want everything to go back to normal. May too. My love. May too. But we cannot. Sometimes life changes. And there is nothing we can do to stop it. I love you. Sophie. Never forget that. I love you too. Grandma. The call ended. I stared at the phone in my trembling hands. And in that moment, I understood the full, brutal, devastating truth. I had won the battle against Ethan. I had protected my money. I had punished the guilty. But I had lost something far more valuable. I had broken my granddaughter. I had destroyed my family. I had sacrificed a child's innocence on the altar of my revenge. Vincent arrived an hour later. He found me sitting in the dark, the fire dead, and my cheeks wet. Mrs. Peterson, we have to go. It is going to snow harder, and the road will get dangerous. I followed him in silence. We got into his car and began the journey back. The entire way, I did not speak. I just looked out the window as the snow covered everything, erasing the tracks, burying the past under white layers of forgetfulness. But I knew my past would not be buried so easily, that the consequences of what I had done were only just beginning to reveal themselves, and that the true price of my revenge was yet to be collected. I arrived in the city after dark. Vincent took me straight to Catherine's apartment, because mine, my home of 30 years, now had changed locks and no longer legally belonged to me until a judge ordered otherwise. It was strange to feel displaced from my own life, as if the revenge I had planned with such precision had also erased my place in the world. Catherine was waiting for me with hot tea and a blanket. "You look terrible. Margaret, come sit down. You need to rest." She guided me to her sofa and wrapped me up as if I were a child. For the first time in weeks, I felt I could let my guard down, that I could stop being the cold strategist and go back to being just a tired, broken woman. "What happened at the police station?" I asked after taking a sip of tea that burned my throat but made me feel alive. Catherine sighed and sat across from me. "Ethan and Jessica are in custody. The charges are serious. Fraud, aggravated robbery, attempted endangerment with risk of death. The prosecutor is asking for 5 to 8 years in prison for each of them. With the recordings and documents we have, it is almost impossible for them to get off. 5 to 8 years. I repeated the words as if they were in another language. "My son is going to spend the best years of his life in a cell. Your son tried to leave you to die in a frozen cabin." "Margaret." Catherine took my hands. "You cannot feel guilty about this. He chose his path. You just defended yourself." "But Sophie called me." My voice broke. "She knows everything. She is devastated. And I am responsible for that pain." "You are not responsible for Ethan's actions. He is the only one to blame. Sophie is a smart girl. In time, she will understand. The important thing now is that you are okay." "Did you eat anything in the cabin?" I shook my head. I was not hungry. I had not been hungry in hours. Catherine got up and went to the kitchen. She came back with hot soup. "Eat. You need strength for what is coming." "What is coming?" I asked. Though a part of me already knew the answer. There is a hearing tomorrow. The judge will determine if they remain in pre-trial detention or if they can be released on bail. You need to be there. You need to give your testimony. And believe me, it will not be easy. Ethan is going to try to manipulate you. He is going to cry. He is going to beg. He is going to say it was all a mistake. You have to be prepared to see him like that. I do not know if I can. Catherine, he is my son. I know. That is why I will be with you every second. You will not face him alone. That night, I slept in Catherine's guest room, but I did not rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face as a child. I heard Sophie's voice crying. I felt the cold of the cabin seeping into my bones. I got up 3 times to walk around the living room, to look out the window, to try to process everything that had happened in such a short time. At 6:00 inches the morning, Catherine knocked on my door. "It is time to get ready. The hearing is at 9:00. You need to look strong, confident. They are going to try to make you look like the villain. Do not let them." I showered, dressed in a simple brown suit, and pulled my hair back. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I did not recognize. I had deep, dark circles under my eyes, wrinkles that seemed to have multiplied in days, and a hard look I had never seen in myself before. Revenge had transformed me into someone different. I did not know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. The courthouse was already crowded when Catherine and I arrived. News cameras lined the front steps. Reporters stood behind the barricades, speaking into microphones. I recognized Ethan's face on several television screens, through the windows of the media vans. Local man accused of plotting to abandon his elderly mother. The headline made my stomach twist. This was no longer just our family tragedy. It had become public spectacle. Catherine placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Do not look at them. Walk straight inside. Flashbulbs exploded the moment they saw me. Mrs. Peterson, did your son really try to leave you to die? Do you forgive him? Are you asking for prison time? Questions came from every direction. I answered none of them. Inside the courthouse, the noise disappeared behind heavy wooden doors. For a brief moment, silence returned. Then I saw him. Ethan. He sat at the defense table, wearing the same clothes he had been arrested in. His hair was messy. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. His wrists still carried faint red marks from the handcuffs. He looked nothing like the confident man who had smiled while driving away from that cabin. When our eyes met, he stood immediately. Mom? The single word nearly shattered me. His voice sounded exactly like it had when he was 10 years old, after scraping his knee. Desperate. Afraid. Human. 2 deputies stepped between us before he could move closer. You may speak only through your attorney. Ethan nodded weakly, before looking back at me. Tears filled his eyes. I never wanted this. Jessica, sitting beside him, rolled her eyes. Oh. Stop. Pretending. She folded her arms. You wanted every penny just as much as I did. Ethan spun toward her. You manipulated me. I manipulated you. Jessica laughed bitterly. You forged your mother's signature. You changed the locks. You told her there wasn't any phone signal. I never forced you to do any of that. The courtroom had not even come to order, and they were already turning on each other. The judge entered. All rise. Everyone stood. Judge Eleanor Brooks, a woman with silver hair and decades of experience written across her face. I looked over the courtroom before taking her seat. Be seated. The prosecutor stood first. Your Honor. The state requests continued detention based upon overwhelming evidence of financial fraud, conspiracy, attempted theft, and intentional abandonment of a vulnerable adult under circumstances creating a substantial risk of death. He began presenting photographs, the cabin, the recordings, the forged documents, the bank records, the surveillance footage. Then the audio recording played. Jessica's voice echoed through the courtroom. Is greater than, to the foolish old woman who is going to make us rich. The room fell completely silent. Then Ethan's voice. Is greater than. As soon as we sign the transfer, we are gone. Another recording followed. The one that still haunted my nightmares. Is greater than. If she doesn't survive the cold, it would actually make things easier. Several people in the gallery gasped. Even one of the deputies lowered his eyes. Judge Brooks removed her glasses slowly. She looked directly at Ethan. Did you make these statements? Ethan swallowed hard. Yes. But. There is no but, at this stage. The judge interrupted. You will have an opportunity to testify later. The prosecutor called me as the first witness. My legs felt heavy as I walked toward the witness stand. The bailiff administered the oath. I promised to tell the truth, every painful word of it. The prosecutor spoke gently. Mrs. Peterson, did you willingly travel to the cabin? Yes. Why? Because I believed my son wanted me to rest. Did you know he intended to leave you there? No. Were you provided with any means of contacting emergency services? No. Did the defendant remove your cellular telephone before leaving? Yes. Were you aware that he had already changed the locks to your apartment? No. How did you learn that? He told me. After he got into the car. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. The defense attorney stood. He was polished, confident. Exactly the type of lawyer wealthy defendants hired. Mrs. Peterson. Isn't it true that your son left you with food, firewood, and shelter? Yes. So he did not intend to kill you. He intended to leave me alone in an isolated cabin without communication, transportation, or any way to seek medical help. You survived. I survived because someone rescued me. The attorney paused. But had your son returned in 2 weeks as planned? He had already purchased airline tickets to leave the country. The courtroom became silent again. The defense attorney hesitated. I continued before he could interrupt. He had no return ticket. He had emptied what he believed was my bank account. He had changed the locks to my home. He had removed my phone. And he told me no one would be coming. If that is not abandonment. I looked directly at Ethan. Then I do not know what is. The defense attorney quietly returned to his seat. Judge Brooks looked toward Ethan. Do you wish to address the court before I rule on detention? Ethan stood slowly. His entire body was shaking. He turned toward me instead of the judge. Mom. Fresh tears streamed down his face. I know nothing I say can fix this. I was desperate. I owed money. I thought I could replace everything before you came back. I convinced myself nobody would get hurt. I told myself it wasn't really dangerous. His voice cracked. But when they arrested me, when I heard the recordings, when I realized what I had actually become, he dropped his head. I hated myself. He looked back at me. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I'm sorry. I am so sorry. The courtroom remained perfectly still. Every eye turned toward me, waiting, wondering. Would I forgive him? Or would I let justice take its course? For several long seconds, I could not speak. The courtroom disappeared. The reporters, the judge, the attorneys, everything faded until all I could see was the little boy who used to run into my arms after school. Then reality returned. Not the memories, the facts, the forged documents, the changed locks, the empty promises, the freezing cabin. The prosecutor looked at me. Mrs. Peterson. I took a slow breath. Ethan. My voice was soft. You are my son. Nothing will ever change that. I carried you for 9 months. I watched you take your first steps. I sat beside your bed when you had pneumonia. I buried your father with you standing beside me. I loved you every single day of your life. His shoulders began shaking. But love, I continued, does not erase consequences. You didn't make one bad decision. You made hundreds. You lied. You planned. You signed papers. You changed the locks. You looked me in the eyes. I could barely force the next words out. And hugged me goodbye, knowing you intended to leave me alone. Tears streamed down Ethan's face. I know. No. I gently shook my head. You don't. You know what you did. But you don't know what it felt like. You weren't the one standing in that cabin listening to your own child's car disappear into the snow. You weren't the one wondering if you would die there. You weren't the one realizing your son believed your life was worth less than a vacation. Silence settled over the courtroom. Even the reporters had stopped writing. I forgive you, I finally said. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Ethan looked up, stunned. But forgiveness is not the same as freedom from responsibility. I forgive you because I refuse to spend the rest of my life carrying hatred. I forgive you because hatred would imprison me too. But I will not lie to protect you. I will not ask this court to ignore what happened. And I will not save you from the consequences you created. Ethan broke down completely. He covered his face with both hands and sobbed. I'm sorry. I know. I believe you are. But being sorry today does not erase what you planned yesterday. Judge Brooks remained silent for a long moment before speaking. Mrs. Peterson. She nodded respectfully. Thank you. She turned toward the defendants. The court has considered the evidence, the recordings, the financial documents, and the testimony presented today. The evidence against both defendants is substantial. There exists a significant risk of flight. The defendants have already purchased international airline tickets and taken concrete steps toward leaving the jurisdiction. She looked directly at Ethan. The court also finds that the alleged victim remains vulnerable. Bail is denied. A quiet murmur spread through the courtroom. You will remain in custody, pending trial. The gavel struck once. This hearing is concluded. Deputies immediately approached Ethan and Jessica. Jessica stood without emotion. Her face remained cold. I want another lawyer. She snapped. No one is getting me convicted over this. One deputy simply gestured toward the holding area. This way. Ethan, however, stopped before being escorted away. He looked at me one final time. Mom. The deputy allowed him only a few seconds. I don't know if you'll ever visit me. I don't know if I'll ever deserve it. But if Sophie asks... His voice cracked again. Please don't let her hate me. Then he was gone. The heavy security door closed behind him with a metallic clang that echoed through the courthouse. It sounded like the final chapter of an entire lifetime. Catherine squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing. I don't know if there is a right thing anymore. I whispered. Outside. The reporters were waiting. Microphones stretched toward me from every direction. Mrs. Peterson, do you have a statement? Will you pursue the civil lawsuit? Do you regret cooperating with police? I stopped on the courthouse steps. For the first time, I answered. I didn't put my son in jail. He put himself there. I simply refused to lie. Then I walked away. Over the next several months, life slowly began to settle into something resembling peace. The criminal trial ended with guilty pleas from both Ethan and Jessica after additional evidence surfaced, including financial records, surveillance footage, and the recordings Vincent had collected. Jessica accepted a plea agreement and received several years in prison. Ethan accepted responsibility as well. His sentence was reduced slightly because he cooperated and admitted everything without forcing me to relive the ordeal through a lengthy trial. It wasn't victory. It wasn't happiness. It was simply the end. The civil court restored my apartment. The fraudulent documents were voided. Every dollar was returned. But none of those judgments could restore what had truly been lost. Family. Months later, Sophie came to live with me temporarily, while social services and the court worked through custody arrangements. The first night she unpacked her suitcase. She stood in the doorway of what used to be Ethan's childhood bedroom. Grandma. Yes. Do you think Dad can ever become a good person again? I looked at the old photographs on the shelf. One showed Ethan at 7 years old, covered in birthday cake, smiling without a single shadow in his eyes. I don't know. I answered honestly, but I hope so. People can change. They just have to want it more than anything else. She walked over and hugged me. A real hug. The kind that asks for nothing except love. I held her tightly. At that moment, I realized something I hadn't understood in that frozen cabin. Justice had never been about revenge. It had been about survival. About making sure the cycle ended with me. About giving Sophie a chance to grow up, knowing that love should never require sacrificing your dignity, your safety, or your life. Years later, when people asked me how I survived the greatest betrayal of my life, I never talked about the lawyers, the evidence, or the courtroom. I told them something much simpler. The hardest part wasn't exposing my son. The hardest part was accepting that the son I loved no longer existed. And once I accepted that, I finally found the strength to save the only person I still could. Myself.